Hello and welcome back to the Editorial, the podcast where we tell you everything we got wrong and often deny that we ever got anything wrong.
We don't do that
Come
much,
on.
do we? Come on.
I'm joined by Editor-in-Chief Zac
Hello.
How you doing?
Yeah, really good actually.
It's been a couple of weeks since we last spoke, and as is standard procedure, we're going to start this episode by running through all the videos that come out in the last 2 weeks that have fallen below our acceptable quota for like-dislike. So videos that you disliked, we're going to talk through, explain why you disliked them, and maybe apologise if we made any mistakes that led to those dislikes. Then, if we have time, we'll jump into the Q&A section where we'll answer a bunch of your questions from the comments in previous videos. So make sure you add your comments in this video. Let's start though with the mistakes we've made, and which channel would you like to jump in with, Zac?
So I think the first thing to say though is that we have had, oddly enough, a podcast fall below the like-dislike threshold. And actually it was the last editorial. So we are going to have to meta-editorialise at some point. But I reckon we hold that for
Let's hold that.
No?
Yeah.
So I think probably the channel to start with is going to be EU's, the easiest one to do. We have one appalling video on that one, to be quite frank, and I am laying the groundwork for a full-throated apology here, and that is why Spain's Vox is rising in the polls. That has a like-dislike ratio of about 87%. It's
bad.
It's very bad, and I mean, I don't think that actually people have got much issue with the content of the video. There is some people saying that actually we're making a mountain out of a molehill, and that Vox have only risen a couple points in the polls. But I think we do say in the video that there are two things that are remarkable about this. I mean, first, it's a trend. They have been rising relatively steadily from about 10% to more like 17, 18% over the past couple of months. And also, every single time in the past that Vox has risen in the polls, it's been at the expense of the People's Party.
Yes.
Partido Popular, I think, is the...
So glad you don't host the videos.
Yeah, I'm not saying that again. The Pepe, and this is the first time, I think, that I could see where that hasn't happened, right? In that both that centre-right party and the Vox, the sort of more hard-right party are rising in the polls. Anyway, but people were mainly annoyed at the thumb, because in the thumb, the arrow shows Vox's vote shares projected splurging way up, past the two main parties, and obviously that is stupidly unrealistic. We definitely went too far there. This is an apology. I am sorry about that. That was too clickbaity and just a bit silly. So we made a mistake. We acknowledge.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think also it's worth saying we are currently changing how thumbnails are done a little bit. Previously, I used to make every thumbnail. Well, not even previously. I still make like 90% of them. And that had a whole process of like how we discussed it in the office and stuff. That is changing slightly. I'm stepping away from doing at least some of them. I mean, it's reduced from 100 to 90. Hopefully it will get lower eventually, because it doesn't really make much sense that I'm still making thumbnails. It's just like I did it at the beginning and have never handed it over. So in no way am I blaming the person who did do the thumbnail in this instance, but I think it's a symptom of that handover, that this wasn't sufficiently checked and there wasn't enough dialogue, and that's something we've now learned.
And it was fundamentally my bad, because I did say that, but I didn't, there wasn't any
You did
any
request
dialogue.
it.
I did request a sort of projected, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I guess the issue is...
if you just zoom out, you can't really see it. I mean, this goes to people's point that we're making a mountain out of a molehill, but because the other two parties are so much more popular, you just can't really see that, unless we zoomed in specifically on the Vox line, in which case you'd see, but you see what I mean? Yeah,
and I think there was some discrepancy. You said that it should be projected to go ahead, like boost. I don't think you explicitly said above the others, but it was implied, and like what does projected mean? And that's a whole thing we need to discuss.
We made a mistake. We are sorry.
We will be keeping an eye on thumbnails going forward, but to give us a little bit of...
I think the next channel to do, if you're happy with me to move on, is going to be Global. So Global actually really pretty good like-dislike ratios across the board. Is Syria about to split? The like-dislike ratio is above target, but there are two things I think worth mentioning. The first is there is a typo in the title sequence. It says, instead of fallen, I think it says stolen. No, instead of stalling, it's stolen.
Oh.
There's a little Danish Christmas secret. Stolen. So there's a little typo in the title sequence. And there's also this thing that people have pointed out in previous Syria videos where like we use this map of Syria's sort of demography and ethnic makeup that comes from I think it's a Columbia or Duke University professor, and people always dispute that map. I totally get that. The thing I would say is that there is not a reliable map of Syria's demography at this point. And even the sort of population estimates just vary massively for really obvious reasons, right? There's not been a reliable census done for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And, you know, I do understand, you know, the fact that there will be, people will have qualms with any sort of map we put up there. But I think that map does quite a good job of sort of illustrating the basic point in those videos, right? Which is that the various minorities are clustered around certain areas. So, I appreciate that it might not be perfect. My best excuse is that I don't think there is any perfect map of Syria at the moment, unfortunately. Maybe we can find another way around it. And that's, I guess, a sort of half apology there, but I guess blame Syria's census.
Sure.
Then there are two videos that have fallen slightly below the like-dislike ratio. Actually, three.
I see three, yeah.
Yeah.
All
why are
recent
Democrats
US ones.
still so unpopular? Why Trump is taking over Washington, D.C. and Trump's 7 peace deals examined.
All just under target. None of them massively controversial, but all of them.
I think all of it is just that, in general, American content has a slightly low dislike ratio just because how polarized you Yanks are. And this time, I think that's sort of what happened. I will say there was a specific complaint that people make in the Washington DC video, which is about the statistics that you use, that one uses. And this was something that the Trump administration themselves have talked about. They have claimed on multiple occasions that the data is fake in some sense, or use different data sets. There's a whole data rabbit hole that we could go down. I'm not that familiar with it. I didn't write that video. What I would say is that the claim we make in the video is that crime is falling. And while the data generally, there was disagreement amongst different data sets about how much crime there is, there's a pretty wide consensus that actually is falling. So I think that claim is justifiable. And I have been instructed by the relevant writer, Rory, to recommend a piece by Jeff Asher on his Substack that really digs into all the different sort of like crime statistic sources and you know, how to square them with one another. I couldn't find any more substantial complaints about either why the Democrats are so unpopular video, which I understand why that has a lower like dislike ratio. I think that's always going to be a controversial topic, or the one about Trump's various peace deals. I think that is everything on those two channels. The last channel, obviously, to talk about
UK
is UK, and I'm going to fold this into a sort of UK/ podcast discussion because
it's about the porn ban.
It's about the porn ban. And so basically we did has the Online Safety Act backfired video. It got slightly lower than target like dislike ratio, about 95%, isn't it? And then in our previous editorial, as diehard editorial fans will remember, I basically
you defended the video, certainly.
We talked about our original video on the Online Safety Act, and I think the editorial itself had a like dislike ratio of like 87%, which is a bit mean. I'll be honest with you, it hurt. And I think it was generally because people didn't really buy, I'm not gonna say my take, but like my partial defense of our original video.
So the original video, people argued, came out too strongly in defense of the bill. Not even that we were arguing in favor of the bill, but more that we should have gone harder against the bill. We should have highlighted more of the critiques, etc. And I think in the last editorial, you kind of explained the logic of the original video, and by doing so, kind of also defended the bill a little bit, I guess, or highlighted some of the positives.
I think actually, so what I would say is I think that the last editorial, my apology here is I just spoke for too long. I said too many things. My basic point was really simple. What the point I was trying to make is that just because a bill isn't watertight, you know, just because you can get around the Online Safety Act doesn't mean it's a bad law, essentially, right? That was the only claim I was making. That's a very trivial claim. The claim is, you know, the fact that a law isn't watertight is an argument against it. But as to whether or not the law as a whole is good or bad, you know, to do that, to judge that, you've got to sort of look at all the arguments against it, look at all the arguments for it, weigh those arguments up and come into an aggregate decision. That was the only point I was trying to make. And I just said too many words. I should have just said it like I just said it and moved on. And I think people, from my wangling, people sort of inferred that I was actually defending the bill and sort of in favor of the bill. I mean, I think my opinion on the bill should be by the by. That's not what this is about.
You didn't write the video.
I didn't write the video, and obviously, the video should not be reflecting my opinion on the bill. People also say, in lots of the comments actually on all the videos, they say that we need to talk more about the privacy concerns. We do talk about the privacy concerns, and we did in both videos. So I don't really buy that critique. People also say that we should stop calling it a porn ban.
Yeah.
Which I think is fair.
That is fair.
And I apologise for that. We should stop calling it porn ban.
did.
Because, did you?
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
I rescind that. As soon as I said it, I thought I'm going to editorialise on this before the episode's over. I was already ready to apologise.
Yeah.
Yes, which is a very fair point, because we've discussed this in the office, and I think, again, we don't need to get into personal opinions on it, but I think there is a certain amount of disagreement, and I think there is...
I think for transparency's sake, we can say, we'll probably get more dislikes if we say it.
Okay, go on then.
Well,
I'm pretty strongly
to the
against.
audience, I reckon.
I agree with the audience. So if you're throwing hate anywhere, not this guy. I very much agree with the audience.
Yeah, and for transparency's sake, I think I'm more sympathetic to the bill. I think it's been implemented appallingly, but to the basic idea behind the bill, I am more sympathetic than I think the median audience member is.
So I think, this isn't a reflection of our views. And also the privacy thing is something I've hammered in discussions in the office. That's always like my main argument, as well as some kind of more kind of ideological arguments. But I think this hasn't slipped us by, and we're not all in agreement on it against the audience. I think, as you say, last time maybe we ended up going too deep in a way that wasn't helpful and actually distracted from the video itself. And we no longer were talking about the video as much. We were just talking about laws, which is fun. That's our job.
Right. In the video,
in the previous editorial.
Yeah. So I think the apologies are
we're really running the risk of over wangling again here.
Yeah. So I apologise in the videos. Yeah. We apologise for
calling it a porn ban.
That's not right. I don't think we actually apologise for the tone. I think some people are frustrated that the tone wasn't more anti the Online Safety Act, but that's not really what we do. We're supposed to be sort of more measured. And with regards to that previous editorial, so meta editorialising now, I apologise for wangling too much. I was saying too many words, but that's what I do.
Stop wangling.
I'm here for the wangle.
Horrible. No, it's good. I'm here for the wangle is a great t-shirt.
Okay, so that I think is actually everything.
Yeah. Okay, great. Should we answer some questions then?
Go on. Have we got time?
How long was that? That was 13 minutes. Ooh. So we have another 7 minutes to go. Okay, we're going to randomly select. We currently have 40 questions in the pool, so we're going to randomly select from those 40. If you want to add more questions, let us know. Comment your questions. We'll add them if we haven't answered them already. Zac prefers policy questions. I prefer general questions. So do whatever you want. We're going to start by answering question number 13, which is... I'd be interested in a breakdown of how well Too Long does. Doesn't have to be money related. How many digital orders versus physical? Did it surprise you? Any unforeseen or foreseen challenges?
That's quite. That would take a while to answer.
It will take a while to answer, and I reckon we maybe should do a standalone. We did a video a while ago on how TLDR makes money. Links in the description. And I think there is a lot of curiosity around Too Long in particular because it feels weird that we're doing it. And people are curious, what's going on with this thing? Why are you making a magazine? Yeah. So I think maybe there's too much to say, and it'd be better served as a standalone editorial episode.
And we could also talk about, any of the articles that people might have felt are too partisan or betray our standards. We could do a Too Long editorial. If
you'd like us to do an episode all about the editorial, all about Too Long, how Too Long makes money, I've got some graphs on my screen right now. We're about to have a meeting about it. If you'd like to see these graphs, let us know. But for the moment, we're not really going to answer the question. Let us know if you want us to dive deeper. But the big, broad breakdown is that Too Long is by far the most profitable thing we do from an ROI perspective. Yeah. And actually is maybe even projected late at some point relatively soon to overtake YouTube ad revenue as our biggest individual income stream.
That's pretty crazy.
So Too Long is doing very well. Appreciate it.
And it's really well received, which is very nice as well. That's a bit of a surprise.
Yeah. If you'd like a copy, you can use the code on screen to get 20% off, and you can pick up a copy, and then your numbers will be included in the numbers we discuss next time.
I was going to say, a good time to also mention that you were considering doing another editorial special on
Just on the money situation
money
generally.
situation
So we can do that too.
So if you would like a sort of too long editorial and maybe a money editorial, do so.
Great. Final thing I will answer on that, of the breakdown of digital versus physical orders, way more physical. Physical is more fun. You should buy physical. Okay.
We have to pack it though.
We have to pack it though.
We're not quite. You should order loads of physical to the point where we don't have to pack it.
Okay. Next question is question number 28. Question number 28 is a policy question for Zac. Given the abysmal state of the current Labour government, do you think it would be a good idea for them to legalise marijuana? It will create a tax revenue and maybe win over younger voters. Wondering what you think the potential backlash would be and if it would be worth it.
I'll say three things very, very quickly, because I think otherwise it's going to take a massive rabbit hole. The first thing is that actually in the places where it has been legalised, especially in America, quite often those policies have been reversed. They don't seem to be as effective as people hope. The second is actually that the tax revenue numbers are really quite small. I mean, most estimates put it in the hundreds of millions, which is non-trivial, but like it's not going to fill the 20 billion black hole or whatever it is. It's not going to make a meaningful difference to the finances. And the third thing is I think the politics around it are actually pretty not good. It might be popular with some younger voters, but I don't really think that's Labour's worry right now. I mean, you can sort of imagine, I don't want to sound too much like a boring Labour strategist, but imagine how that plays in the Red Wall, for instance, right? Not well. So no, I don't think it's a great, at least given that Labour have limited political capital, I don't think that's where they should spend it.
Yeah, interesting.
Last one? You can do more.
We'll see how much time we have.
What's the time limit? 20 minutes?
20 minutes. 38. Do you pay attention to medium powers, that's countries like Canada, Australia, and Brazil, when it comes to their internal politics all of the time? Or do you only pay attention when big things happen, like an election or someone sent to jail?
Oh, good question. I think it really depends. I mean, there's not actually a good answer. In some countries, we do pay more consistent attention to them. It sort of depends. Like sometimes one of the writers will just take an interest in a country for a bit, right? Yeah. And then, I was, again, obsessed with Ethiopia for a while, to the point where I was paying lots of attention outside of normal big election events. I mean, in general, though, not really. I think we pay quite a lot of attention to South Africa, if we're talking about middle powers. There's sort of always a background ticker to do with South Africa in the writers' ideation meetings. And sometimes there are other countries that come and go. I mean, Argentina is another good example, right, for slightly obvious reasons. I mean, obviously, there's the whole Millet shenanigans. But I'm always keeping an eye on sort of Argentina's domestic politics. So I think there's not really a good answer to this. I mean, in some cases, yes. In most cases, no. And the countries that we do pay attention to, they change over time. And I think
it is interesting, though, that it's so... I mean, it makes sense, but I think people might assume it's more regimented than that and less of just a vibes-based...
Oh, so much of this company is appallingly vibes-based.
It's just what people are interested in. I think the only other caveat, and this is a boring caveat because it's obvious to the audience probably, but probably the big exception there is European middle powers, is we do pay attention to a whole bunch of European countries that, aren't that important, but we are always on top of because we have to fill a whole channel with it. Whereas we don't need a Brazil or a Canada video every week. We do need multiple videos on Europe. So that's maybe true. A slight exception, but maybe an obvious one. Okay, finally, we've got time for one more question today. That is question number... we already did question number 13. That is question number 34.
Feeling good about this one.
Oh, you're not going to like... Well, you're not going to not like it. I think the second half of this question you might like more. What are your favorite genres of music? And what are your colleagues' taste in music? Do you ever listen to music in the office, either privately or together? And are there disagreements over it? I think the second half is slightly more interesting.
You answer. I don't...
Zac's taste in music, from what I consume via what he puts on.
We can do it this way.
I think this is very easy for both of us. I don't know, maybe I think I can be nicer to you than vice versa. Your taste in music is kind of generic classical, sometimes leaning towards more modern interpretations of, it's not like Beethoven, but it is kind of more modern classical. Yeah, and I suspect that when you have your headphones on and you'll go just on the tube, you're not listening to that. Maybe you are. But certainly in the office, if you can tell Zac's put the playlist on, I think.
Oh, well, I think that's a compliment. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Yeah. This goes to show how badly versed I am when it comes to, music. But I think I sort of have all of you, aside from maybe Narja, in a big amorphous music mass in my head, right? Like I think it's all quite poppy. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
There are sort of, there are like slight differences. Jan loves a bit of Eurovision, for instance.
Jan does.
And Naja likes metal.
Yeah, Naja does like metal.
Are we allowed to? I hope she doesn't mind.
That's fine.
Saying that.
Surely. I agree. There's certainly similarity in the rest of us, but I think Georgina leans that way, and also like Sam Fender kind of energy.
I don't know what it means.
Ben is still the same. The same Venn diagram exists, but Ben is adding on slightly more kind of like
indie rock as well.
Yeah, alternative rock kind of energy. Rory is the same pool. Add on George Ezra.
Yeah, and Joy Crooks. He was in Joy Crooks.
Yeah, I'm joking, Rory. It's a bit. And I'm the same energy, but add more like kind of just
Charlie
queer
XCX,
gay pop. Yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
I couldn't say those words.
No, I know. That was the issue for you. There's never any disagreement over it, though, I wouldn't say. I'd say very rarely is it commented on, and we do normally have music on in the office.
What? Have we had any big music? There was a big music disagreement for a bit, wasn't there? Ben's normally on the receiving end of it.
It's normally, we quite often put blends, like Spotify blends on, which kind of mitigates it because it kind of averages you out. I think we sometimes, the only occasional thing would be if writers are trying to concentrate and the music is a bit too loud or like vocal. I think that's the advantage of classical kind of stuff, is obviously you don't have the distracting background words. But I think it is a writer animator split, because I think when I'm doing like more graphics work, the classical stuff is just too little, because like when you're sure you have to think and you have to like imagine things in your head, which requires some concentration, but like if you're designing something, it's
also
2 minutes
when you're
of
writing,
thought.
you're thinking in it, you're trying to speak in your head.
Whereas it's like 2 minutes of thought for designing a thumbnail and then 20 minutes of executing that, and the 20 minutes of executing that when it's just classical, I need more going on. So I think that's the only disagreement. Also, there was disagreement over Young Gravy back in the day. The Gravy Train.
I think Georgie, did you used to make music?
I've never produced, but I'd love to.
Okay.
Georgina, you, like DJs and stuff though, or did at one point. So like Georgina's
That's
the most
true.
actively
Yeah,
engaged.
Georgia is probably the most musical.
Okay, so those are the questions. Hopefully they're interesting answers. Make sure to shoot us more questions in the comments of this video, and let us know if you want a standalone editorial on too long and money stuff. That's all for today though. Thank you for joining me, Zac, and we'll be back in 2 weeks' time with more editorializing.